where the people who lost can just sabotage the will of the American people. And that's what they did. We have the records of the acting attorney general. We have the CIA director, John Brennan, in the Oval briefing Obama on a complete fabrication, the so-called Steele dossier implicating President Trump in a Russian connection, which was all a lie.
With a clip from MSNBC, where I don't know who this guy is, but he says Donald Trump is engaged in a revenge presidency, going after his political opponents. On Reddit, they say it's a fascist takeover of Washington, D.C. They say Trump has begun his authoritarian takeover of Washington, D.C. Ladies and gentlemen, the issue that we're dealing with is that we had mass rioting over the past several years, an economy that was hurt, mass illegal immigration, and Donald Trump is reversing the illicit actions, the corruption of the previous administration and their ilk. Russiagate was a hoax. Trump never colluded with Russia. It was a lie. And they can come out now and say, we know that now. They knew it from the get-go that the intel was bunk. Adam Schiff is now accused by a whistleblower of leaking classified intel to smear Donald Trump. We cannot function as a country without accountability. And in D.C., crime is bad. I'm going to be pulling in Sebastian Gorka to talk to us about what is currently going on. How should I refer to you? I'm not sure. Your title is Mr. Gorka, or what's your official title?
Dr. G is what they call me here. I'm Senior Director for Counterterrorism, Chief of CT for the President, at the rank of Deputy Assistant to the President, but you can call me Seb, Dr. G, guy with a strange accent, whatever you prefer.
I like Dr. G. Well, let's jump into these big stories. MSNBC's got this segment. They're saying Trump is engaged in this revenge presidency. We've got this report that a whistleblower saying Adam Schiff was leaking classified intel along with other staffers intentionally to go after Trump. Every day, this Russiagate scandal more and more is being exposed. But when Trump does what I think is the only reasonable thing, going after the corruption, they say it's just revenge. And then the second subject is with D.C., they're calling it a fascist takeover. But again, crime is running rampant. So I'm curious your thoughts, working with the administration. What you see is happening. Are the people winning? What is Trump's play?
So first things first, these people really are, they must have single-digit IQs, Tim, because what's the problem with trying to turn the word revenge into a criticism? Well, there's a big problem, because revenge can only happen if what? If something wrong was done to you. So actually, it's a confession. If this is the revenge administration, it means that everything we're fighting against, the Russia collusion hoax, the open borders, the complete wussification of the military, the use of Patriot and FISA powers against innocent Americans, that means they're admitting that it's all true. So if it is a revenge administration, then they fessed up to actually being the unconstitutional human filth that they are. Secondly, and this is not to undermine the great work of all of my friends, like, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, DCI Ratcliffe, Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino. God bless them for doing what they are doing now, that people who respect the Constitution are back in power. But none of this is new. So if you've been following these issues, which I know you and your viewers have been doing, the facts of the case, let's just stay with the Russia hoax, have been known for at least 7 years. Yep. Go back and read the books written by Dan Bongino, the reporting of John Solomon, the reporting of Sarah Carter, the reporting of Greg Jarrett ad infinitum. We all know what happened. And for those who've been in a cave, the Rip Van Winkles, the people in a coma for the last 7 years, the last administration, the Obama administration, when President Trump won, used that peculiar time left in office. We're the only developed nation in the world that you vote first week of November and the winners don't get to take over the government till the end of January, which is insane. It's based upon the speed of a horse-drawn carriage or something nuts. I mean, you win the election in the UK on a Friday, the guy at 10 Downing Street better be out of the office by Monday morning. So we have this interstitial period where the people who lost can just sabotage the will of the American people. And that's what they did. We have the records of the acting attorney general. We have the CIA director, John Brennan, in the Oval briefing Obama on a complete fabrication, the so-called Steele dossier implicating President Trump in a Russian connection, which was all a lie, that Brennan forced the analysts to rewrite because they said it's fabricated, it's old news, it's not real. And then they rewrote the presidential daily briefing, in and of itself, potentially a crime. And then what? All of that was used to do what? Try and entrap members of the administration. Who is Azra Turk? So strange. A so-called FBI analyst meets in a pub with George Papadopoulos in London when the station chief is Gina Haspel, the CIA station chief, good buddies with John Brennan, says, oh my gosh, there must be Russian collusion with the administration. And I don't want to get into things that still may be classified, other nations' intelligence services were used to do an end run against the U.S. Constitution, to spy on U.S. citizens when there was no predicate of a crime. We know that one of our closest allies said, sorry, we're not going to do your spying for you, John Brennan, because there is no evidence that these U.S. citizens were colluding with the Kremlin. Other nations were less circumspect and did the end run for Brennan, and they went after General Flynn and everything else. We've known this for years. Now it's being investigated, Tim.
Let me ask you then the most direct question I can. There's the grand jury probe that's happening now, and I don't want you to speak ahead of where this is going, but should the people implicated be in prison?
If they committed crimes. I'm not an attorney, but I've done enough of this when I had my own national radio show and TV show. I've done enough research. I've listened to the experts and the lawyers. Under federal statute, Tim, there is a crime which is corruption under the color of law, which means you denude a U.S. citizen of their civil rights, like General Flynn, like my colleague here in the White House, Peter Navarro. You denude them of their civil rights under the pretense of the massive authorities you have as a federal government official, using the FISA courts, using illegal surveillance. If you take somebody's civil rights away, saying, I'm doing counterterrorism, or that person's a Catholic going to a Latin mass, they must be a domestic terrorist, you are committing a federal crime under the color of law. Anyone who committed that crime with the massive powers of the U.S. intelligence community should face a court and stand in the dock for their crimes and be judged by a jury of their peers.
This sounds like the biggest political scandal in the history of this country. An administration knowingly and falsely accusing the incoming administration, namely the president, of being a traitor to his nation, working with a foreign power to undermine the country, despite the fact that he won. And the ongoing impeachments, the arrest of his lawyers, what we saw from the Democratic Party at the state level, this is all unprecedented and terrifying. I was told over and over again, they will never arrest Trump. It can't happen. That's crazy. And then they did. I was told it wouldn't happen. They're not going to go after his lawyers. Then they did. So now I fear this. Many people fear that there's not going to be accountability where it needs to happen. But on top of that, the bigger fear is, what if Trump loses this battle? What would that look like for this country if accountability is not had?
So as someone who chose this country as a legal immigrant to the United States, I still have faith in our system. Yes, they raided my boss's home at gunpoint, Mar-a-Lago. Yes, they put my colleague, Peter Navarro, think about this, a fallacious contempt of Congress charge, and the FBI, the individual who is responsible, was just fired by Cash. So that tells you Peter Navarro was put in leg shackles at Reagan Airport to chill everyone who worked for the president. He was frog marched off a plane at the National Airport for a contempt of Congress charge in leg shackles and handcuffs. We cannot allow that to stand. So my faith is in the system. And look, I know these people. I know Kash Patel. I know Dan Bongino. They will not allow the abuse of the U.S. Constitution to continue. And my gosh, when you've got the likes of my former colleague, Judge Janine Pirro, as the chief prosecutor of this cesspit that is Washington, D.C., then, we have the right team. So I just say, have faith. The Timcast crew, all you viewers, have faith in the system, because this is a man who took a bullet for us. Do you remember that thing at McDonald's? Everybody focused on the apron and the fry station. And I said, guys, you missed the whole point. When did President Trump really win the election? When that Indian immigrant family pulled up to the takeout window, and the father says in a deep South Asian continent accent, "Thank you, Mr. President, for being there for nobodies like us." And first the president goes, what do you mean a nobody? You're an American. And then you got to put the gain up on the volume. The wife from the other side of the vehicle says, "Mr. President, thank you for taking a bullet for us."
Wow.
And there's this pause. You can't rehearse this. And the president goes, "Yeah, I guess I did take a bullet for you." That man will not be stopped. Not 700 years in prison, not the fake indictments, not the raid of his home by FBI goons. That man will not be stopped. And let me tell you, there's a big difference. I keep being asked, what's it like to be in the Trump administration now as opposed to 8 years ago when you're in the White House? And let me tell you, it's who's in the team. There are no Rex Tillersons. There are no traitors like John Kelly, who is undermining the writ of the president as his chief of staff. Everybody is here for one reason. We believe in America and we believe in the U.S. Constitution. And we will die on that hill if we have to.
I'm loving watching Cash do his thing. When he said in an interview that Comey is responsible for the largest criminal conspiracy. I've talked with Cash, we've had him on the show, and I can see the indignation, the righteous indignation when they accused him, when they accused the Trump administration, and that's a man with a mission, so I'm very, very excited for that.
There's one weakness. Let me just say one thing. There's one massive weakness my buddy Cash has, especially if you work in the cesspit that is Washington, D.C. He has no ego. And I mean none. It's never about Cash. Did you know Cash had my job? He was, a counterterrorism czar when we took out General Soleimani. Nobody knows that because he didn't brag about it. The guy is a hero and he never talks about himself. That's the kind of people who are in the America First team.
I love it. I love what Trump's doing with D.C. because we're not far away. We're effectively in the metro. It's about an hour and a half out for us. We go there all the time. The past several weeks, we've been doing shows in D.C. because this is our big city. And the crime is extremely obvious. We have to do security protocols for the team, for myself, when we're going into D.C. because the crime is obvious. There are tents in the middle of the sidewalk. And I'm telling people, when they imagine a homeless camp, they imagine under a freeway, they imagine near an abandoned construction site. I'm like, guys, no, it's on the sidewalk next to businesses and buildings. Now, I'm not here to rag on the homeless for being homeless, but the city is not being taken care of. You've got these stories, I don't know if you've heard this, where these kids get on bikes and they pop wheelies in the middle of the street in huge gangs and they charge at people. And people are posting online saying, we can't live this way, so we avoid the areas now. They're telling us in the liberal press it's not happening and crime is down. Well, what's really going on?
So, I come into D.C. every single day to work. And this is the capital of the greatest nation on God's green earth that put men on the moon 6 times, not once, 6 times. Under the Biden administration, the last year in office, this isn't a big city. It's 600,000 people. I grew up in London, 10 million. We had 900 carjackings in a 12-month period in the nation's capital. We had female FBI agents, armed agents, who were carjacked in broad daylight. The personal story, when I had my radio show, I'm not going to mention his name because I don't embarrass him, I had an amazing board op. I had an engineer who said, Dr. G, I love working for your show, but I'm going back home. I'm getting out of the city because of the second stabbing he witnessed from his porch, a block from Congress. And
Wow.
I couldn't blame him. I said, buddy, Godspeed, God go with you, because I don't need, you to be endangered by lunatics on the nation's capital. So what president, I had somebody DM me yesterday, a follower on Twitter, say, I was crying watching the president's presser yesterday because I live in Maryland and I don't bring my family to D.C. anymore. God bless President Trump. That's the reality the MSM will never tell you.
You know what's funny, too, is one of the events that we did in D.C., we had a conversation about MS-13, and this was when the Abrego Garcia story was really popping off. And it was a debate show, so we had this liberal who making the liberal arguments, we shouldn't go after these people. A local woman who lives just north of D.C. in Maryland came up and said, I don't care what you think. I don't care about your opinion. I live here, and MS-13 is a problem. We are all terrified. And we've been seeing MS-13 gang graffiti popping up all over the area, getting worse. So these liberals come out and say, a Maryland man, but the local residents are terrified that these street gangs are expanding and getting worse. But now under Trump, it's starting to finally get better. Yet here's what really blows my mind is, for those of us that are in D.C., I mean, you're in D.C., for those of us that go to D.C. for work, we can see the crime. You can't ignore it. It's mind-blowing to me that on MSNBC and these other channels, they're telling their viewers who've never seen it, it's not actually happening. Trump is lying. And you got Mark Elias saying this is Trump's roadmap for a fascist takeover of other cities to see if he can get away with it in D.C. My view is just, how much murder is acceptable in your city, and how did we get to the point where 27 murders per 100,000? Yeah. I believe it's the 8th highest in the nation. Some say it's comparable to the worst, but I think the metrics from last year show it's in the top 10. Why is that acceptable at all? And it's like their argument is, well, hold on, murder is really, really bad, but it's not the worst, so we shouldn't have law enforcement? What should we do?
Well, look, there are a couple of things here. We can go to the meta level, and we don't have to get all philosophical. But when your political camp is predicated on the denial of the existence of objective truth, then crime stats are irrelevant, right? And if you can redefine, look at San Francisco, stealing up to $900 from a store is not theft, right? So this is when you get into Monty Python, absurdity. So truth doesn't matter. And like the Communist Party, you go back and you read John Kennan's long telegram on the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. What was the most fundamental sentence in that formerly classified cable? Truth is that which is of utility to the Communist Party. Wow. That's the DNC, right? Truth is anything I define it to be if it is of utility to us staying in power. And then secondly, look, let's flip it. Who said this? I was doing an interview yesterday and somebody made this point. Yeah, Rob Schmidt made the point. The trouble is, they know that if this works, if we clean up DC because of the president's mandate, every Democrat city, all the residents are going to say, hang on, you mean we don't have to put up with carjackings? You mean we don't have to have, the moped gangs going around on a Saturday ripping our iPhones out of our hands? Yep. This is the death knell, because what is the Democrat Party? Let's be honest. It doesn't represent the worker. It doesn't represent immigrants. It represents rich white people in the metropolises of America. If the Democrat-run cities that are a hive of crime see President Trump's strong law and order approach work in D.C., the electorate of San Francisco, of L.A., or Boston are going to say, Oh, really? My daughter doesn't have to be raped in high school by an MS-13 gang member who's actually 23 and pretends he's 17. This is the real danger. This is the existential threat to the Democrat Party.
Trump's going to prove it. Well, one thing that's interesting, though, is so Colbert gets canceled. They say it was $100 million a year to do this show where basically all he does is rag on Trump every single night. Whatever sophistry he can muster up. Kimmel and Fallon, they're doing the exact same thing. But now Paramount's putting money into South Park to mock Donald Trump. But they're no longer playing this woke game. They insult Donald Trump on South Park for being gay. They're not even talking about his policies. I feel like the Democrats maybe, and now we've seen this too, they're going to put, I think it's $100 million into content creators. They're trying to find a way to get rid of the weird woke stuff that people have abandoned. Bud Light has proven it. And try and start going after middle-of-the-road people to say Trump is uncool and bad. I'm curious if you think their media strategy is going to work for them.
It will fail, and God bless them for continuing to dig that deep ditch. It wasn't me who said this, but what is the left been saying now since November? Oh, my gosh, we need to find the liberal Joe Rogan. You mean the guy who was a liberal,
right?
And said, I'm never going to have Donald Trump on my show until people like me, embarrassed him on X, who said to him, what are you cuckold? You believe in freedom of speech, or you're going to have President Trump on your show? Tim, I'm not sure because I haven't known you personally, but I don't think you were a hardcore conservative all your life. Is that a fair statement?
No, I'm still kind of a liberal
The people
guy.
who were left-wing media successes said enough of the cult. I want to live in a country that's safe and prosperous. They're digging a deeper ditch, and there is no mainstream media. I had a modest radio show on Salem, okay, talk radio. I had 3.5 million live listeners Monday to Friday for 3 hours, and I wasn't even working hard at it. Well, I don't know how big your following is now on whether it's Rumble or YouTube. I'm sure you're still crushing it. Let's give me the stats. CNN on a good night has less than 500,000 viewers. They're irrelevant. Treat them like the garbage propagandists they are. That is my statement to all conservatives out there. They are garbage propagandists.
But I got to correct you on that. You said they get less than 500,000. That's total viewers. When you look at their key demo, it's like 40,000.
Yeah.
That's non-existence as far as the media landscape goes. So you're right. You asked about myself. I think it was August of 2020, I said I decided to vote for Donald Trump for the first time. I didn't vote for him in 2016. And for those years of his presidency, I said I wasn't going to vote for him. I don't want to. I don't care for either party. But it was the weird DEI woke cult stuff that was in the Democratic Party at the highest levels. And I said, you know what? That stuff's freaking me out. They want to have government contracting based on race. Trump said, we're going to end the wars. We're not going to have these nation-building incursions, and we're not going to have DEI in contracting. And I said, I would be a hypocrite to not support that because this is one of the most important things we've seen. Unfortunately for me, Trump lost that one. And what we ended up getting was exactly what I and many people feared with the Biden administration, complete ineptitude, and this mass flooding of illegal immigration into the country, which Trump has now largely reversed. And I think he's on the right
You're being
track.
far too fair and charitable. It's not ineptitude. he may have been a senile old, fool, but this was all by design. Opening the borders was by design. Giving billions of dollars to Iran was by design. So, let's be. A caller said this on my show, and the second he said it, I felt like I was going to jump down the phone line and rip his carotid out. But I counted to 10, and I realized he's right. The caller rang into my show about 2 years ago and said, it's good they stole the election in 2020. And I was going to go, what? And then I thought, hang on a second. No raid on Mar-a-Lago. No 21 million illegals. None of the redistricting. None of the transgender men in sports. No raid on Mar-a-Lago. No arrest of Peter Navarro. The red pilling of tens of millions elections. Because they stole the election, we have to be thankful for them. And not only that, it's beautiful. Isn't it just delicious? I didn't want to talk about this before the election. The fact that President Trump did not serve 2 contiguous terms means he will be the commander-in-chief behind the Resolute desk when we celebrate the 250th birthday of the greatest nation on God's green earth. That is just glorious. Forget the Olympics and FIFA and everything else. Simply that he's going to be the man in the Oval. And then lastly, can I just have one plea to all of your viewers? And even people who are totally MAGA and have been like me for a decade. I've known the president since I first briefed him in 2015. People do not understand the enormity of what he's doing. Just with the tariffs alone, he is rewriting geopolitical history for the next 50 to 100 years. He is a tectonic actor of epochal proportions. And you need to understand that this is a historic presidency. So if you want to make a change for your kids and your grandkids, now is the time to pile on and support the bravest politician in America's modern history.
Well, Dr. G, we're strapped for time, but where can people find you?
Right now, just on X, really, Seb Gorka. Facebook, Instagram, Sebastian _Gorka. I don't post as much as I used to because I live in a skiff for about 12 hours a day. But hit me up if you want to do a longer chat sometime because this was super fun, Tim.
I do appreciate it. Hey, we should set something up. So thanks for hanging out, and we'll see y'all next time.
God bless. Thank you, guys.
Take care. That was the man himself, Sebastian Gorka, working in the administration. And, of course, he's a pro-Trump guy. He's working for Trump, but I agree, largely. He's trying to be a bit more optimistic. I know a lot of people are concerned about whether or not we're going to succeed. Come on. I know a lot of people are going to say he's pumping up the Trump administration. Trump's made mistakes. He's got to. We want good morale. We want smiles on our faces, and we want to believe that we're going to succeed, make this country better, solve its problems, and create a better life, restore American tradition, have that Christmas morning, all that stuff. Don't get too black-pilled. Maybe I do too much, so I can appreciate Dr. G coming on and saying, we're doing well, we're going to win, we're going to get it. And so I love it. My friends, smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Let's see who we got in the Rumble lineup. They say that Russell Brand's off for the time being. So we'll see who we're going to send y'all on over to. So, again, smash the like button, share the show with everyone. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Let's see, who do we still got rolling up live right now at this 1 p.m.? We got, everybody shouted out Matt Kors yesterday. I don't know if he is live right now. I think we only got a handful of live. There's Charlie Kirk, Right Side Broadcasting, Rebel News. Crowder is still live, but I think he's doing members only right now. What do you guys think? Who should we hit up for this Rumble raid? Someone said, you're not sending me anywhere. Okay, well, you can stick around. Rumble's back, I believe, in 2 weeks on vacation. Or at least that's what people in the chat told me. So I guess, guys, we'll send you to hang out with the Charlie Kirk Show. We'll give a shout out to Charlie Kirk. Do appreciate his work. Shout out for the South Park stuff. And we want to keep you guys locked in on the Rumble morning lineup. So hang out with Charlie. We're good fans. I like the work that Charlie does. And again, smash that like button. Share the show. We're back tonight at 8 p.m. Let me see who we got in the lineup tonight for the Timcast IRL show. I believe it's Colonel West. Colonel Alan West will be joining us. Very excited. He's great. Love to have him on. And we got good stuff coming up this weekend. I'm not going to be here Thursday or Friday, though. Look at me. I'm missing work like crazy. I'm kind of bummed on it. But we had already set up. I will be doing a bunch of shows in New York. And so it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. My friends, follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Join the Timcast Discord server. Go to timcast.com, click join us. We want to build a big community. We want people sharing ideas, having meetups, and that happens. If you want to make friends, if you want to meet people, if you want to be involved, timcast.com, click join us. Several people have actually gotten married from meeting in our Discord. I kid you not. Like men and women. It's not just dudes. It's crazy, right? Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all in the next segment.